Many Canadians, of course, were pretty upset about the closure of the Hudson Bay stores across Canada. Some say, though, it's about time, calling the department stores zombie firms, basically a company that lives on despite poor performance. Joining me to talk about this is Tom Goldsmith, founder and principal at Orbit Policy, a policy consulting company. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so can you expand a little bit on what the zombie stores actually means, or zombie firms?
Yes. So zombie firms are businesses that essentially perform poorly for a long time, but then they don't exit. So the definition kind of strictly is firms whose revenues are insufficient to pay their interest payments for a period of 3 years, and that they're at least 3 years consecutively, and they're at least 10 years old. So these are mature firms. These aren't the startups, scale-ups, the kind of firms that might be using debt financing or might be in the early stages of growth. These mature firms that just persist, and they act as a severe drag on our economy.
I was going to say, what makes them a drag on the economy?
So they essentially suck up resources that would be better spent elsewhere, in particular people. So even these zombie firms have talented staff there that might be better placed elsewhere. So some research from 2018 from the Nobel laureate Darren Acemoglu and some of his other economics colleagues found that these kind of low-performing firms, they essentially suck up R&D talent that could be better placed elsewhere, and that if you actually put a tax on them and force some of these firms out of business, that talent, that capital, and those kind of subsidies that got put into them would be freed up elsewhere to create R&D, to create productivity growth, to create broad-based economic growth.
Talk to me about the Bay, which you have classified as one of those zombie firms. What was it that wasn't working for them?
The Bay is an interesting example, and it shows why this is a complicated picture. The Bay obviously facing a lot of headwinds, and the retail sector as a whole facing headwinds. Amazon and other kind of companies like that put a lot of kind of competition and fundamentally changed some of the business models. However, you've seen firms like Simon's respond innovatively and doing well. They're expanding, opening new stores in Toronto and beyond. So it's not about the sector. These firms exist all across. In the Bay's case, you have a story of venture capital coming in and asset stripping, essentially, and really kind of taking away the productive capacity of the organization, at least in part. That's part of the story there. But these firms go far beyond retail, and it'd be wrong to characterize it just as an issue of retail.
So give me an example of other firms that you would put into the same category.
So Statistics Canada's research from a couple of years ago found that the highest share of zombie firms in the economy were in the mining, quarrying, and oil and gas sector. They found just over 10% of all of those firms are zombie firms, going up to around 50% of publicly traded firms in that sector.
Okay, now, is this a Canada problem, or is this a North American problem? Does the U.S. have the same sort of issue?
It's a global problem. It in part reflects the decline of business dynamism, the decline of creative destruction that you see across the world. In Canada, by some metrics, at least our publicly traded companies, does far worse than others, but around 5% of all Canadian firms, so privately held and publicly held, are zombies, which is broadly in line with the rest of the world.
You mentioned Simon's as one that is more innovative. Can you give me an example of why it has bucked the trend, or other companies that do, as you say, move along with where we're going?
I'm not an expert on Simon's and their model, but it's a combination of factors of just business leadership, the quality of actual leadership and strategy and decision making. This is something we see with issues around AI adoption at the moment, in terms of only 25% of firms get a return on investment for AI adoption. A lot of that depends on the quality of the strategy you have. How are you actually kind of deploying new technologies or taking advantage of the new opportunities out there? If you're able to, in the case of Simon's, have a virtual presence and web platform and e-commerce position that is attractive, usable, and one that people want to use. We, my family, have used Simon's far more than we ever used the Bay, even though Simon's wasn't really.
What was the different experience for you?
hard to
Was
put your
Simon's just
finger.
more
Yeah.
intuitive
I
to
think
what
that's
you
part of
wanted?
it. Yeah, like that user experience there, that's part of that picture. But it really does go far, far beyond just that. And like some of the issues with the Bay, it was a viable business for a long time before it went private, before it got debt imposed on it. And part of this picture really is the fact that some of these firms have been bought by leverage buyouts, have had debt imposed on them. They might have had revenues that were able to pay their debt payments before being bought out. And it's after that that they then get turned into these zombies that act as this drag on the economy.
You mentioned what I think is very salient, which is how companies in general are going to use AI and use it to improve either their customer-facing service or behind-the-scenes inefficiency, that kind of thing. Really, this is a crucial time, and a lot of companies, I think, might fail at this.
Yeah.
Do you see that as a possible problem moving forward?
It's a complex picture.
Yeah, of course. And we're just at the beginning of it.
And that's it. Like, it depends on the type of firm it is and how it fails. Like, if it's a zombie firm, the evidence is that actually that's a good thing. It frees resources, it frees talent, it frees capital that could be better spent elsewhere. Other firms that are good are going to struggle. I think part of this picture is, and the piece that I wrote this week about this really kind of puts the emphasis on the workers, the actual talent in companies. And a lot of the research around AI comes down to that bottom-up worker-led AI adoption. AI is a tool, especially in like knowledge sectors, where how it fits in your workflows is so varied that there needs to be a collaborative engagement between management level and workers to actually make the best of it. Are firms actually doing that? Are they having top-down mandates or well-thought-out strategies? That's a big question.
Yeah.
And that comes down to that productivity. How do we make the most out of this technology and the people there?